This is an NQ9 Reaper. It's a strike platform. We use it for intelligence collection, but it's really a strike platform. Next slide. It looks like this. Terrence is into being an RPA himself. He's like a one-man android. His first choice when he graduated was commissioned was to become an RPA pilot. He got that choice. He's completed the flight screening program at Pueblo. He's in San Antonio, Texas now in the 558 Trading Squadron. He completed the instrument qualification course in the T6 Texan, and now he's finishing up his RPA qualifications. Next week, he'll get his RPA wings and head out to Creech Air Force Base for his first choice of assignments, to fly an NQ9 Reaper. He's fired up about life, and this guy's going to make a difference. Somebody may get to fly him. Next slide. By the way, when he shows up to hit the target that he's called into, that target might have been nominated by Joe, his classmate and buddy from Armor. Joe graduated top of his intelligence school class. He got the only Air Force Special Operations Command intel slot that we've given out in 3 years. He's now a member of the 11th Intelligence Squadron, one of 3 officers in a 100-person unit of airmen and contractors. Their job is to provide full-motion video and multi-source fused intelligence for the greatest special operators on the planet. This picture on the right was taken when he was deployed in Afghanistan as one of 2 airmen on our Army Special Operations base. He worked directly for the commander of the Joint Special Operations Task Force, identifying, tracking, and delivering target coordinates to the strike teams off the wire every night. Joe's in the fight every day. You will be too. Next slide. This is Global Strike. It's got a lot of different faces then. Next slide. That's the F-15E. And this is Jimmy Tinder, who's going to go flying. Jimmy's now a distinguished graduate of our Combat Systems Operations course down at Pensacola Naval Air Station in Florida. He's right now completing the introduction to Fighter Fundamentals course at Columbus Air Force Base, and then he'll head off to Seymour Johnson to learn to fly the F-15E. Jimmy's going to make a difference. He's excited about this job. Some of you will fly in his front seat. He'll teach some of you. You'll be lucky to stand beside him. Next slide. When he hits the target area, he may be under command and control of an AWACS aircraft like this one. We have 53,000 airmen who do command and control every single day all over the world. Everything missile defense to air command and control to ISR management. 53,000. Next slide. Or maybe Jimmy will be controlled by this guy. He was never an Army. Zach Ryder's Air Force Combat Controller. Picture on the right was taken shortly after he became only the 2nd Air Force Combat Controller to be awarded the Air Force Cross. It happened in 2008 when he was on his first combat deployment as a young senior airman. He and his 10-man team had gone into the Shock Valley as part of a larger American-Afghan force to find a really bad guy high in the mountains of that very steep, rocky mountainous area. About 15 minutes after they were inserted, they were ambushed by about 200 insurgents. They thought there were 70 in the entire valley. The enemy was 100 200 meters above them on the cliffs on the side of the valley, and they were trying to climb up to get to the bad guy they were trying to capture, and Zach got wounded about 15 minutes into the firefight. For the next 6.5 hours, he called in airstrikes to protect his team. He was credited by everybody in the team for saving their lives that day. While he was being medically treated for wounds in his leg, he had through and through wounds in his left leg, he was actually being bandaged while he was shooting bad guys and calling in airstrikes. After he got the bandage on his legs, he helped move the wounded down a straight cliff while he's calling in airstrikes hanging on a rope. This guy's a real deal. I met him a year ago after he was wounded again up in northeastern Afghanistan. He got shot in the upper leg, shattered his femur, broke his tore his sciatic nerve. They put him in the Mazar-e Sharif up in northeast Afghanistan. They treated him quickly, gave him at a field hospital, gave him a short surgery to stabilize him, medevaced him. I got to meet him when he got back to D.C. He's just an amazing, amazing guy. You ready to lead him? That's what you're signing up for. Next slide. Jay could very easily be his commanding officer someday. Jay's one of our battlefield airmen. He's a tactical air control party member. He's actually assigned to Fort Drum, New York with the 10th Mountain Division. He's also Joint Terminal Attack Controller qualified. He's NATO Forward Air Controller qualified. Just returned from a 9-month deployment last October in Regional Command East in Afghanistan, a really ugly, tough place. Where Jay earned the Army's Combat Action Badge, the Air Force Combat Action Medal, and an Army Commendation and Achievement Medal, and the respect of every soldier and airman he fought beside. We don't have a whole lot of earnings yet in this career field. If you think you got what it takes, we'd love to have you stand beside. Next slide. C-130 has been a workhorse for us. Last year in Afghanistan, we dropped more airdrop supplies out of the C-130 to forward operating bases than we dropped in the entire Korean War. It's one of the untold stories. Unbelievably incredible activity by our tactical airlifters. Somebody keeps them flying. Next slide. One of those somebodies is Gabby Wilson. I think a lot of you know Gabby. She was national commander in 2010, 2011. She's an awfully proud alumni of this organization and still consults, as I understand it. She's a Ramstein Air Base in Germany. She's a young maintenance officer. By the way, she's a pretty good one. It shouldn't surprise you if you know her. She was company grade officer of the quarter twice already as a second lieutenant. She was also the maintenance professional of the year at Ramstein in 2013. She also served as the interim operations officer, a major's position, for 6 months as a second lieutenant. I've never heard of that. She led a deployment to Bulgaria, a maintenance detachment in Bulgaria. She faces her first deployment here in a couple of weeks. She's pretty excited about it down there. This is the face of tactical airlift. This is the face of mobility. You'll be flying her airplane someday. You'll be very lucky to do that. Next slide. Speaking of airplanes, Duncan McNabb is the ultimate airlifter. As commander of U.S. Transportation Command, as commander of Air Mobility Command, he launched 600 strategic airlift sorties a day. That's what the Air Force does. 600. That's one every 2.5 minutes, every hour, every day of the year. It never ends. Never, in any decision I've been involved in Washington, D.C. about moving a Patriot battery to Country X, or a brigade combat team to Country Y, or more air power to Country Z, never have I heard the question asked, can we get it there? What an incredible compliment to Duncan and his wife and the team around him. Next slide. This is what the back end of that airplane looks like if you're a Filipino refugee. Next slide. This is what it looks like if you're a wounded warrior. This is a Jackson, Mississippi Air National Guard aircraft bringing wounded warriors home to the States. By the way, the crew is Air National Guard. The medical team in the back treating the wounded warriors is Air Force Reserve. And down in the bottom right, which you can't see, there's a critical care air transport team that's all active duty. They save lives every single day. Next slide. Katie wants to be one of the people in that CCAT team. Katie's an Air Force nurse now. She graduated from nursing school. She's a registered nurse. She's actually in the nurse transition program right now in Scottsdale, Arizona. She's focused on critical care, emergency, and trauma. Those are her interests. So she's received about 200 hours in this program of medical surgical unit experience. She's got about 80 hours of classrooms, seminars, educations, and simulation labs, like the one on the right. And she spent about 60 hours doing critical care and trauma work. To include helping to care for 8 consecutive Cat 1 trauma patients who came by aerovac to her medical team, who she helped keep alive. She wants to be on that CCAT team. She's on her way to Nellis Air Force Base to work at the hospital there, where she'll take care of her and her family until she gets the opportunity. Next slide. By the way, if she becomes a nurse on one of those CCAT teams or one of those air medical evacuation flights, if she's really lucky, she'll work on Adriana Valdez's team. Adriana's an Air Force reservist as well. Adriana lives and grew up in San Antonio, Texas. She's worked at the San Antonio Military Medical Center in her civilian job for the last 12 years as an ICU and trauma nurse. This was taken